Everybody, I am being joined today by Rebecca Traylen, who is Head of Nutrition at Z2S Supplements, and we're going to be talking about rocket fueling your eggs for fertility. So COQ10 being such a big part of that, and she is here now, so I'm going to welcome her in. Hello to the questions ready. Rebecca will very happily answer them as we're going through it live, so ask away. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I'm good.
Good.
Excited
I
to talk
have.
about COQ10.
I know. I was just saying as you joined. So if you could just give everyone joining a little summary of yourself and your background and head of nutrition at Z2S Supplements, and then let's talk about getting the right fuel for your eggs when preparing for fertility, and of course that star ingredient COQ10.
Yes, yeah, no, of course. Well, thank you for the introduction at the beginning as well. But yeah, I am Rebecca. I studied actually biology and then specialised in nutrition, and have gone into both actually gut health and fertility. It's my area of specialism, and very into the world of supplements, how they can work, what are the best ones that we should be using, and work at Z2S products alongside Z2West, of course, and also working on our range of supplements as well. So yeah, hopefully be sharing lots of knowledge today on CoQ10.
Absolutely. And if anyone who is watching has any questions live for Rebecca, please feel free to drop them in the comments and we will get to them as soon as we can. So the first thing I want to ask you is, where should someone start with COQ10 and who might find it helpful?
Yes, so COQ10, either coenzyme Q10, ubiquinol, ubiquinone, are some of the interchangeable terms, actually has a lot of benefits. So obviously we're going to focus on fertility, but actually it's a nutrient that can be used for heart health and energy as well. But in terms of fertility specifically, it's actually something that I recommend both to men and women. For women, I particularly recommend it for those who are older, who are getting pregnant, going through IVF, low AMH levels, and also those with PCOS endometriosis can be particularly helpful for these individuals.
Mm-hmm.
For men, it can be really beneficial, again, for older men, because actually we know that it doesn't have as profound impact, but we know that age still impacts male fertility. But also for men who have either low sperm count or poor parameters, so looking at things like motility and morphology. For these individuals in particular, I'd be really looking at CoQ10 to supplement them with.
Okay. Good to know. And interesting to hear about men as
Yeah.
well, because obviously that is half of what we need
Yeah.
on the sperm side. And how fast does a supplement such as, a compound or
Yeah.
COQ10 work? When should someone consider taking it in the lead up to IVF, conception, natural conception? What would you advise?
Yeah, so with the studies, when we're looking at CoQ10, we actually do see an increase in our CoQ10 levels from about 4 weeks. So just to actually start, all of our cells need CoQ10, and it's actually something that our body can produce itself. So it is always working our body to produce CoQ10, but our levels do decline from about mid-20, which is why particularly for older individuals and older couples, I find it really beneficial to use. But I say when we're looking at fertility, I'm always working within that 3-month time period, because it is the time for the egg for the full maturation cycle. And again, sperm takes 2 to 3 months to mature. So ideally, if you can work within that 3-month timeline, whether it's natural conception or when you're starting your IVF, and that be when you're starting your stimulation, I would like to ideally work within that sort of 3 months. But I would say with everything that if you don't have that time period, we do still see an impact. We do still see an increase in your CoQ10 level. So it is still going to be beneficial if you're working with a slightly shorter timeline.
Absolutely. Better than not doing it at all, right?
100%, yeah. And yeah, like I said, we can see that there is going to be an increase as well. And what is great about CoQ10 is we do get some from our diet as well, but our body is making it, so we're not starting from sort of ground zero. But a supplement can be really beneficial to help increase those levels.
Fantastic. As people may know watching this, I am a big fan of the Z2S supplement products, and have used them for all of my IVF conception journeys to prepare for frozen embryo transfers and also for fresh retrievals. And also have used the supplements throughout pregnancy for different trimesters and postpartum as well. So for anyone who is interested in finding out more, please head to our link in bio as we're chatting or afterwards. And you are welcome to use code TRB10, which gets you 10% off the entire range. So that is a very popular thing. COQ10, what form of COQ10 is the best for this supplement?
Yeah, so there are two forms of CoQ10, and I find it very confusing because the names are so similar, so it's really hard sometimes to tell when you're looking at packaging. So ubiquinone
Yeah.
is the inactive form of CoQ10, so it needs to be converted in the body before it can be used. Whereas ubiquinol is the active form, so it's readily used by the body, it can be readily absorbed. So I always say get the active form. It's the same when we're looking at folic acid versus folate. We want it to be as easy as possible for our body, especially if we are undergoing stress. When we get older, our body is less effective at converting some of these nutrients. IVF, there's a lot of stress that you can be putting on your body. You want to make things as easy as possible. So it is ubiquinol we're looking at. And actually, we know at studies as well, it's 3 to 5 times more bioavailable, which means just more easily absorbed by the body when we're looking at ubiquinone. So that is the form I will be looking at. Interestingly, there have been some studies looking at ubiquinone, the inactive form, but we need much higher doses of these to be getting that beneficial impact. It's kind of like 600 milligrams is what we'd be looking at with that inactive form. So I always say, get the form that's easier for your body. And actually, so like I was saying, that our body produces and has levels of CoQ10, and over 90% of that is ubiquinol. So I always say, get the version that your body likes to use and is more efficient at using.
Good to know. Someone has just asked, is it best to take CoQ10 as a standalone additional supplement, or is it better to look for it as a compound ingredient in a multi-supplement, and what daily quantity? Great question.
Yeah, this is a brilliant question. Thank you so much for asking. So I'll start with the last bit about the multivitamin supplement. So there is CoQ10 in a lot of prenatal supplements, however, at relatively low dosage. And this is just due to restrictions that we have in just terms of how much you can fit in a capsule. It's purely a size thing when it comes down to it a lot of the time. So usually about 30 to 50 milligrams you'll find in a multivitamin. If you are relatively young, you don't have any known fertility issues, this actually might be enough for you. And you can just have the multivitamin. It's going to give you a bit of extra support, the CoQ10, but you don't need those high levels. However, if you are someone like the facts I mentioned earlier, maybe you're slightly older, you're going through IVF, and you have low AMH, then I would be looking at a higher dose, and ideally 200 milligrams of ubiquinol, and you would be getting that as a standalone supplement, and that is just so we can fit that amount in a capsule, because like I said, it is just a space thing. Or if we're getting 100 milligrams in a multivitamin, you're going to be having 4 to 5 a day, which is just not what you want for anyone. So I would say, if you are looking, if you do need that higher dose, like I said, that 200 milligrams, it is that standalone that I would be recommending it with. Yeah.
Great. Obviously, it can be so overwhelming for people depending on which stage of their journey they're at, not knowing what both parties should take, when, how much of each thing. Are you taking too much? Are you taking too little? Am I right in thinking that if someone comes to you guys, they can have some support in working out what would be right for them?
Yeah, 100%. So both myself and Isabel, and also fertility nutritionist, do free one-to-one product consultations.
Amazing.
And so yeah, just a time to chat about supplements. No obligation, but it's really handy. I think people find it quite helps relieve a bit of stress, because it is, there's so much information online, a lot of conflicting stuff. So it's nice just to be able to chat through that, definitely.
And also, no question is a stupid question. I mean, the questions I've asked Isabel, she helped me so much with the range, working out what I should be taking when, and how that was kind of personally aligned to my goals and what I needed.
Yeah, exactly. Because there is some personalization to it. And obviously,
Yeah.
we can only offer, so we can't sort of go into depth for every different individual because it's going to be slightly different. So we sort of advise what will be the most beneficial dose for most people. So for like IVF, that is around 200 milligrams. But yeah, for others, it is just looking at the specific dose and maybe changing that.
And of course, it is September. It is PCOS Awareness Month.
Yes.
So how does COQ10 fit into PCOS?
Yes, so COQ10 can be actually really beneficial for supporting hormones. So there was a really good study looking at levels of SHA and FSH and LH. So that can be really beneficial for balancing hormones, but also can be beneficial for a sort of egg quality and egg maturation,
Yes.
because it is involved with energy production. So that is really one of the key roles of CoQ10. It supports the mitochondria, and that is the energy producers in every cell of our body, including the egg cells. Super important that we have enough energy actually to mature that good quality egg each month. So it's going to be really beneficial for that in terms of PCOS.
And we've just had a couple of questions actually. If I could just ask you, someone has said, "How do we book a session with you?"
Yes. So if you head to the Z2West Instagram account and go on our link in bio, you'll be able to book via there, or just head to our website, z2west.com, and you can book a free chat via our website.
Amazing. And for anyone who has just joined, if you're interested in any of the Z2S supplement range, feel free to use code TRB10, which will get you 10% off, which is very nice. So someone has also asked, any advice for supplements for no sperm present in sperm analysis?
Yeah, so I would say it might be worth having a look at something like CoQ10, because it can be beneficial for, again, that sort of energy production. So there is actually a lot of research that tends to be generally actually a bit more research into men's health, sperm health with supplements because it's much easier to analyse. And there's actually been studies showing that the COQ content in the seminal fluid is related to both sperm counts and sperm parameters such as morphology, and it's all just to do with the mitochondria in the mid piece of the sperm should be really high concentrated in that COQ10. So we want to be having those high levels. So definitely CoQ10 is something that I really recommend actually for men, but also looking at things like antioxidants. So CoQ10 functions as an antioxidant as well, but there are other really brilliant antioxidants as well, vitamin E, vitamin C, alpha lipoic acid, which can all have a really beneficial role for that as well.
Brilliant. Another great question, can you take DHEA with COQ10?
Yes, yeah, you can take DHEA with COQ10, and yeah, not a problem in terms of interacting. And we do find with fertility supplements that obviously we don't want to overwhelm people, but they do all have a role, sometimes working together. So COQ10 can actually regenerate vitamin E, that really potent antioxidant, which is really beneficial. There's been a study looking at ovarian response with COQ10 and omega-3 as well alongside. So definitely it's something that can be paired alongside other things and work in tandem.
Brilliant. Good to know. Good to know. You've answered this a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about how it can be so beneficial for male fertility as well.
Yes, so like I was saying, the COQ10 present in all cells in the body, and it is due to that mitochondria function. And the mitochondria produce energy in the body. And if we think about the journey of the sperm and how far it has to travel to reach the egg, it needs as much energy as possible. And CoQ10 is needed for that. It's actually one of these nutrients that we need it to survive, because we need to produce that energy. So that is one way it's really beneficial, that actual energy production. But also something I haven't spoken about too much is the antioxidant benefit as well. So I think antioxidants is such a buzzword when it comes to fertility. But when we are thinking about antioxidants, they neutralize free radical damage in the body, which can directly impact on sperm quality and also egg quality as well. Our body produces these free radicals just from day-to-day processes in the body, but also the environment as well. Things like stress, pollution, exercise, all of these things are going to be creating these reactive oxygen species. So it can work in two ways. One, with that actual energy production, because it's all about the mitochondria, and we want a really high concentration of CoQ10 in the semen. And like I said, high levels of it have been associated with better sperm parameters, but we also want it for that antioxidant benefit. benefit as well to reduce any oxidative stress.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. What about when we should stop taking it? Because there's so much about when you should start,
Yeah.
but when would you advise to stop, especially if you're in an IVF cycle, for example?
Yeah. So for an IVF cycle, the main time you want to be taking it is up until egg collection. I personally still really like to recommend it in the lead up to implantation, because it can also help with enhancing blood flow as well, because it can help with nitric oxide. So I actually still recommend it during that time. But once, probably like the couple of days before implantation, I'd recommend stopping it. There is no research at the moment to show that it's unsafe in pregnancy. And like I was saying, actually, ubiquinol, our body produces, it's a natural compound that we produce. However, there hasn't been any studies to date looking at its safety in pregnancy, or also breastfeeding for that as well. So I always say at implantation, stop taking your COQ10. If you're trying naturally and want to get that positive pregnancy test, you can also stop taking. But like I said, there's no studies to show that it's unsafe, and our body produces it naturally. And actually, the form that we use, the Canica ubiquinol, is bioidentical to the one found in our body, or the one produced by our body. But I always say, yeah, just stop it at that point of implantation, or once you have a positive test if you're trying naturally.
Good to know. And I'd also like to ask you, for women aged 40 plus,
Yeah.
would you say that COQ10 is a must have?
I do, yeah. It is one of those ones that I always recommend. And it is just what I was saying earlier, that although our body does produce COQ10 naturally, our levels do kind of, it's actually, we peak at about 25, our levels of CoQ10. So as we age, our body just becomes slightly less efficient at producing it, but also less efficient as well at being able to convert it as well in the body. So being able to get it from food as well. So I do really recommend it, because it's just going to help with that energy production. It's going to help with that egg maturation, and also help with that good quality embryos as well, which is obviously what we are looking for.
100%. And I can vouch for that, having taken the supplements in the lead up to several rounds of IVF. So I've seen the impact that it's had, taking it X amount of months leading up to egg retrievals at different ages throughout my 30s. It's really interesting to see. And dosage. Can you take too much? Which I'm sure people are often afraid of doing.
Yes. Yeah, so we say with ubiquinol, we say the 200 milligrams is a really good dose to help support either, like, wherever you are really in the journey. And that has been the research dose for ubiquinol. You can increase it slightly. You could go up to 300 milligrams for a little bit of time, but I would try not be taking it too long at a very, very high dose. So that sort of, again, working within that 3 months time period is always really nice.
Great.
I do find that a lot of people have been recommended actually 600 milligrams. And this is because there has been a study done looking at IVF outcomes, however, on ubiquinone, which is the inactive form. So when we're taking the inactive form, our body's going to need slightly higher dosages, because not all of it's going to be converted in the body. So if you're taking that active form, that 200 milligrams, 300 milligrams will be sufficient. Taking too much more, one, it's just expensive, because you're going to be having more capsules. You might notice you get some mild digestive complaints, but it also can actually disrupt sleep, because it's involved in that energy production. Actually, too much can disrupt your sleep, which of course we know sleep is so crucial when it comes to fertility, the IVF process. You don't want anything that's going to be interrupting that. So I do like to say, stick between that 200, 300, but always with any supplements, monitor how you're feeling. If you do notice any side effects, if you do feel like it's disrupting your sleep, play around with when you're taking it and how much you're taking it.
Absolutely. And also, being able to consult with you, for example, to touch base, to check in terms of what you're taking, is an amazing opportunity. So please do head to our link in bio, or C2S Supplements link in bio, to find out more about that too. So to finish, what should we look for in a COQ10 supplement, and top 3 foods to build in to complement that? Because it's not just about the supplements you take, is it? It's the whole package.
Yeah, 100%. So we can get COQ10 from the foods we eat. So the primary source are actually meat and fish. So if you are actually following a vegan vegetarian diet, there have been studies to show that your levels of COQ10 are a little bit lower. So it is that trying to get that good quality meat and fish in, obviously working again within those guidelines, so oily fish is 2 portions per week. But it actually is found in a lot of foods that we eat. It's found in vegetables, it's found in whole grains. The only thing I would say is if we're looking at that therapeutic dose, so 100 milligrams, so I have all of the, if I look away, I'm looking at this like specific weights just so I don't mess up. But so 100 milligrams, you need 10 kilos of broccoli, or 1.6 kilos of sardines, or 3 kilos of beef. So
wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I don't recommend anyone to go away now and eat 10 kilos of broccoli. I don't think you'll be feeling great after. So I do say that you can definitely get it from food, and it is, to be honest, following that Mediterranean style diet is always what I recommend, and you'll be getting it in that way. But I would say for more sort of concentrated dosages, it is looking at a supplement. So the 3 things I'd be looking at, the first one is the dose. So again, that 200 milligrams, always read supplement labels carefully in terms of how many capsules that is. Most of them will be 100 milligrams per capsule, so it'll be 2 capsules per day. It will then be looking at the form of CoQ10. So often the label will just say CoQ10. Have a look at the back at the nutritional table, and it should say either ubiquinone or ubiquinol, and it's the ubiquinol, the OL ending that we want, the active form. And then I really like, and we use it, is the Kaneka stamp of approval. You'll see the logo on the packaging, and it's a brilliant form of CoQ10. It was found actually in Japan, and it's 100% natural, made by yeast fermentation, and it's bioidentical to the form that we have in our body, which I think is really important. So those are the 3 things I'd be looking out for.
So helpful. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Last question, if you've got time. It's not a silly question. Someone has asked, should men take more as they are often larger?
That is a really good question.
Very good question.
And do you want to know, actually, the studies even with a little bit less CoQ10. So there was actually a study on men with low sperm count, and even 150 milligrams, we saw a significant improvement in sperm count. So it is actually still that 150 to 200 milligrams that I would recommend for men as well.
Fantastic. This has been so insightful. I'm sure everyone watching back or watching live will agree. As I said, please head to our link in bio. You can get 10% off the entire Z2S supplement range with code TRB10. So feel free to take advantage of that. And of course, to book a consult with the team, with Rebecca, who will be delighted to help you with your personal goals. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No, well, thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, any questions, do just reach out to us as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rebecca. Speak to you soon. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.